Hello, hello. I am Mayor Watt. That's my site. And hopefully, ohmTown.com is the place you want to go and hang out. As well as here. And YouTube and the podcasts, wherever it might be in relation to you. You can go pretty much anywhere and get the podcast now. Just search for ohmTown. Should pull it up. Yeah. So what is ohmTown? ohmTown is a news aggregation site that funnels upwards of 200. That's kind of the metric that I've been using, but sometimes it's a little less. Sometimes it's a little more. It really depends on what I'm activating at a given time. But it aggregates news from public information sources and consolidates a headline and a little snippet automatically into ohmTown.com and its 6 main categories and about 50 subcategories, niche areas that I hope to one day bring all to Twitch. We'll see if that happens. Those categories are create news, education, entertainment, social, and technology. So 6 main categories, but then there's 50 channels underneath it. The one that is steady state right now is the ohmTown Daily News Show, which is this show, and I talk about around 20 articles. I've already selected them. Let's get into it. The very first article today is in the Word in Tech. A Twitter investor sues Elon Musk and platform over takeover bid. The lawsuit alleges the multi-billionaire's wrongful conduct has caused Twitter shares to plunge. I'd say has a fair chance, right? I'm not a legal professional. I'm not a lawyer. I can't tell you if this is going to happen or successfully, for whoever it is that's suing. But one could argue that the volatility that might be present in Twitter shares and the impression of the public as to the solidity, the foundation, the stability of Twitter is these questions regarding that has led to further instability. This is an article over at bbc.com by Annabelle Liang. The case alleges he violated California corporate laws in a number of ways. It accuses the Tesla boss of wrongful conduct, as his false statements and market manipulation have created chaos at Twitter's headquarters in San Francisco. Twitter shares are around 27% lower than Mr. Musk's $54.20 price. Supposedly he has additional income that bolstered some shares. To me, I think that any public discussion regarding these things outside the machinations behind purchasing Twitter and questioning the integrity of it should have been done privately, and file your disclosures and follow the rules and regulations regarding what amounts to a takeover of a company. This has been done before. Okay, Tesla wasn't his creation; it was something that he bought into. That is that's the power of what amounts to a politically influential, financially independent, what I would refer to as an oligarch, somebody that has basically the ability to do whatever they want to do. And there's various stopgaps, breaks, checks and balances to prevent somebody from doing these things. But when the punishment for it is just a fraction of the benefit that's gained from these violations, really, what does it matter? The benefit is too great for somebody to not just do, but not everybody can do it. If I were to be hit with fines and penalties and whatnot, right, it could be debilitating. And for most people, that's exactly what happens, right? Even a modicum of damages, somebody fines and penalties and whatever else, can knock you out of the game, so to speak. Well, when you're a billionaire, yeah. Well, we'll see what happens with this, but it certainly has caused volatility. His injection of his particular politics, his particular attitudes, has led to pardon me, a hiccup, volatility. That was weird. I'm going to move on to the next article. I am here only for an hour again. I would like to stay longer, but I have an appointment right after this, and even tomorrow I'm going to be impacted by an event that I have to partake in. So I will do the show still, probably at 1 o'clock as well. Okay, with that in mind, let's get into the next article. It's in the Hatch Ideas channel. That's where it was aggregated to from businessinsider.com. Check out these 8 pitch decks of crypto startups that have raised millions. I like talking about pitch decks and business entrepreneurship, strategic management, IP, things like that. And so I've found these periodically, and I started introducing them to whoever might be listening to this. But a pitch deck is basically a bunch of slides with relevant information that drives home the point that you, as an entrepreneur or business person, are capable of leading the enterprise. You have an objective, you have something tangible at the end of this, and you need a certain amount of money to facilitate the either expansive growth or a long runway that affords you the ability to kind of creep towards your objective. Now, most people don't want to invest in something that is plodding along, but as long as you have the skills and there is a goal at the end of it, and everybody has a chance to, make millions on the other side of it, or maybe even produce a product that could be sold to somebody else for great amounts. The objective really is to do that, generate some money, and to provide a service or a product at the same time. Well, the pitch deck is basically a rapid fire presentation of information so that people can get an understanding, and then conversation takes place afterward if somebody is interested. People aren't always interested. So it says, no matter what side of the debate you fall on, one thing is undeniable. There is no lack of startups launching with an eye on digital currencies. Nope, because you can just spin them up. And hopefully people buy into it. I consider let's just say that if anybody can create something from nothing, then it's nothing, right? And every valuation of a crypto business isn't based on the inherent value of the crypto itself. It's built on the idea that it can translate into US dollars. Therefore, crypto to me is pretty much dead. But that doesn't preclude me from being interested in the technology. So I may even dabble in the tech so that I can get a better understanding of it. But I'm not seeking to get rich in crypto, that's for sure. So it says, crypto is dead, long live crypto. Never really liked that phraseology, but this is an article over at businessinsider.com. And let me see, I'm trying to find out who it's by, because it just says Business Insider. At any rate, a record $25 billion in funding went to blockchain companies last year, according to CB Insight's 2021 State of Blockchain Report. And they link to it in this article, so you can jump over there and check it out. Follow the link that's in chat or in the show notes later, and you'll be able to see all of this. The market has gotten so hot that crypto companies are launching their own investing vehicles focused on startups in the space. So kind of like a fund that helps fund startups. And if you're at that point where you've got such wealth that you can fund other cryptos because you've started up a crypto. It's almost, I don't know, I find it sus, because you're basically taking money in crypto that could fail and has massive volatility, and you're converting it into an accepted an accepted fiat currency like the US dollar, and then you're converting that into a crypto business. So you're and hoping that the next product, advances successfully. So it's all just virtual cash, but doesn't have any inherent value. It's the fear of missing out. That's what's giving it value. And people think that it's going to continue to go up in value, but all it takes is a policy change. People just don't care about it enough yet right now. So from the outside looking in, cryptocurrency can seem like a world of potential, but also one of complexity. That's because digital currencies, which can be traded, invested in, and moved like traditional currencies, operate in decentralized blockchain networks. And that really, to me, that's just a red herring, because you can trade, invest just like traditional currencies. And as for it being decentralized, that is almost meaningless. It still has to have some tangible value to the world. But this is kind of like law. It's an arcane art where you have to jump through all of these flaming hoops to make it accessible. And even then, it's abstract, because I always use my analogy that you can't go and buy gum and it makes sense to a person that isn't already very entrenched in crypto. Why? Because 5 cents from a Bitcoin or whatever, some cryptocurrency, is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction instead of just 5 cents. It's something that the common person can wrap their head around. Crypto, not so much. But the point of the article really is to talk about the pitch decks, and so keep that in mind when you are looking at these pitch decks. They're talking about a virtual currency that has real world conventional valuations, not crypto. So in and of themselves, they're worthless. It's because they have the ability to switch over to an accepted currency, a conventional domestic currency. I mean, until the valuations for a crypto business are in crypto valuations, all of it is meaningless. I mean, I understand that it has value to somebody that's invested in it because they can exit and make real dollars. But crypto in and of itself is like me bartering a sheep for a cow. Yeah, it has value, but I have to find somebody that wants my sheep and I want their cow. That's what crypto really is. Can you buy stuff for it or with it? Yeah, absolutely. But it's because it's a US dollar or domestic currency valuation. Yeah, I can buy a $30,000 vehicle with a Bitcoin, but it is still inherent on the concept that it's worth $30,000, not a Bitcoin. Make sense? Well, go and check out these pitch decks if you are interested in this kind of thing. Retirement accounts for crypto, a crypto neobank. That's interesting. It's a Y Combinator thing, I guess. Private market data on the blockchain. For investors in publicly traded stocks, there's typically no shortage of company data to guide investment decisions. Company financials are easily accessible, embedded by teams of regulators, lawyers, and accountants. But in the private markets, which encompass assets that range from real estate to private credit and private equity, think angel investors, that isn't always the case. Oh, and some of this is actually regulated, so even private investments, to some degree, it is regulated regardless of the way that it's being described here. Blockchain for private markets investing. That's the same thing as the last one. So it's interesting. Blockchain-based credit score tech, carving out what amounts to standard business practices, but in the crypto sector, which is innovative, I suppose. Pay-as-you-go compliance for banks, fintechs, and crypto startups. Yeah, it's brilliant high-tech stuff, only because it's been moved over to crypto, but in concept, it's pretty straightforward stuff. And that's it. So I don't know if it's OX Labs or Ox Labs, like 0x Labs. They have a 19-slide pitch deck that the crypto startup used to raise $70 million in Series B funding round. I'd be curious if it isn't crypto dollars that are being invested in this business, or any of these businesses, not just that one. But apparently people really buy into this one about infrastructure for crypto and Web3 exchanges. Yeah. Hopefully they don't continue to get hacked. Let's continue on to the next article. The next article is in the Word in Tech. Soaring fertilizer prices force farmers to rethink. Research into replacements for nitrogen-based fertilizers has been spurred on by high prices and climate concerns. Indeed. So Christine Rowe is the author of this article over at bbc.com. I guess they've got a pretty busy day today, because I haven't had much from BBC showing up in the aggregator that is relevant to a show, at least. It says, just ask, it's a tough time to be a farmer. Just ask Rachel Sharp, a third-generation farmer in the U.S. state of South Carolina who grows a variety of mixed soybeans, or a varied mix of soybeans, corn, wheat, cotton, peanuts, and oats. They said that they saw fertilizer prices for their crops soar 320% last year, the sharpest rise that she or her father can remember. Ms. Sharp says that some of her fellow farmers aren't planting anything due to the excessive costs. Around the world, prices for fertilizer have been breaking records over the past year amidst extreme weather, transport disruptions, and now the Russian invasion of Ukraine. They used my phraseology. Russia, which is contending with Russia, which is contending with Western sanctions, produces large quantities, yes, we know that, of key chemicals used in the production of fertilizers. It also supplies much of the natural gas used to produce ammonia. And therein lies the rub. We are back to what I have been saying at the very beginning of this, which is those who are pulling the stuff out of the ground are exploiting for profit a conflict that shouldn't have happened. And those of us who think that businesses and governments have the ability to shut down this operation see that those people don't want to, because it's highly profitable to create this and basically make it seem like it's somebody else's fault. But it's all human driven. And arguably, there's only one person that is directing the military to invade Ukraine, and they're doing it for what amounts to trying to put the band back together and leave a legacy, at least in my interpretation of things. So I'm just shocked. And this is going to push people. I believe that the real solution here is vertical micro farms that are aquaponic, hydroponic, or aeroponic in some way in a warehouse, controlling the environment and maximizing the production in a controlled environment, and eliminating essentially the need for many things that, for not just fertilizers, it's more controlled. It's nearly lossless in a controlled environment. Whereas here we're throwing a bunch of stuff onto the soil, and then the soil, it's leaching into the ground and groundwater, and we're relying on nature to solve this problem. And it's using massive amounts of area, and it's inefficient, very, very inefficient. But if we go buy a warehouse somewhere and make a vertical farm and we deploy technology in the right way, we can almost automate everything from one point to another, right up until final packing. Why? Because I can do this in my basement right now. I can produce certain things right now in my basement. Various microgreens, lettuces, tomatoes, all kinds of stuff. And it never touches soil. Or when it does touch soil, it's using a different type of soil and not just dirt from the ground. And while we benefit because it's relatively inexpensive for the ground, it's very costly to the environment. It costs fuel. It takes huge machinery, etc., etc. And unfortunately, it's a concentration of wealth. There's fewer and fewer farmers. It's not family run, it's corporate run. And that consolidation, it has the ability to do what's happening right now, which is driving prices up. The cost for farming is going up at the same rate that oil and gas and wheat are going up. Why? Because of oil and gas. The people that are drawing it out of the ground are exploiting the fact that we're coming out of a pandemic, and they want a whole metric ton of money that they lost because there were declines. Yet they got record profits during the pandemic. How does that make any sense? It doesn't make any sense to me. Come and talk to me about it. If you are hearing this in the podcast, come and talk to me about it. If you're, stumbling in here from Twitch, talk to me about it. This is happening around you. We may want to, I want to go and play Apico and V-Rising and Shipbreaker. Everybody that I am entertained by in other channels, I want to go and do that too. But an hour out of your day for news to bring some reality as to what's going on around us, and not necessarily all of the picture, right? Because I'm not talking about other certain events that are quite upsetting. It's here. It's happening. Talking about it as a means of coping, dealing with it, moving past it, moving through it, and not just packing it away, singing Let It Go. The next article is over in the Aerith channel, which is a storybook world kind of environment that I'm trying to build. This is called Strange Scaffold, has announced that they will publish Purgatory Dungeoneer, a roguelite RPG from indie developer Damian Crawford. Purgatory Dungeoneer, also known by its alternate title, My Grandpa Died and All He Left Me Was This, one dungeon in Purgatory filled with nihilistic adventures, is the first game that will be published through this agreement with the El Paso Everywhere developer. All right. So it's an indie. So keep that in mind when you go over to it. It could be wildly popular. I haven't played it. I haven't seen it. I just like talking about these indie developers and drawing some attention to them. This is over at rpgfan.com, and it's by Joshua Lindquist. Wow, I don't know why I feel like I know some of these people. So that is a heck of a name. This is its alternate name. Purgatory Dungeoneer is its new name, but that's the old name. So if you're interested in this thing, go over to rpgfan.com and give it a look-see. It looks like it's on Steam. and it says that it's planned for Q3 2022 release, and that you can wish list the game now. Go check it out. With over 400 possible residents and a pool of 100 classes, Purgatory Dungeoneer is a tactically deep game about balancing your party to brave the depths of the Hellmaw and come back intact. The game features a wide variety of skills and abilities, but no consumable items, so each attempt at the dungeon requires planning, skill, and a shrewdly judged party configuration to succeed. That's interesting. So I guess you go in and you die, and you don't get anything necessarily that boosts you up or that you can take with you. Hey, it's a game where you can't take it with you, but it's still a roguelite. So expect to die early and often. So let's go on to the next article. This one is over in Smack Talk, which is a channel about Apple and culture and games and even competition, but within the confines of Apple, kind of direct connections, not talking about PCs so much. Says a questionable rumor appeared on Thursday morning claiming that Apple is working on iCloud Time Machine and a new range of airport routers. There was some discussion that there was a device that was filed with the FCC that had a bunch of tech embedded in it, and that maybe it is a new airport. I'm just going to click the link and it'll pull us over to Apple Insider. So, but it had a lot of hardware in it. So, okay, before I get into it, I always cite who the source is. So this is by Andrew Orr over at Apple Insider. And so I read about this a little while ago, and then I saw another article about it, and then today I saw this. So it says it's been 4 years since the airport was discontinued, and the product itself was originally released in 2013 in the vertical tower form. I loved the airport hardware. Drop dead simple to deploy, stable like nothing else I had ever had, short of enterprise class. And I never had a problem with it. Suddenly it disappears, and that just drove me nuts. Then again, I fall in love with HomePod. Brilliant sound, very capable, rock solid, not the smartest smart speaker at the time, and even now my HomePod minis are sometimes you want to just grab them and throw them out a window like a baseball, but it evolves, and hopefully it'll get a little bit smarter and be able to disclose information instead of saying go grab your phone because that's the only way I can share information with you. Drives me nuts. But at any rate, so if they're releasing a new airport and they're releasing an upgraded HomePod, which is another of the rumors. I don't know if this article is going to talk about it, but it says the other part of the rumor on Thursday mentions a redesigned version of the Time Machine that integrates with iCloud Drive. It would have to be a radical redesign because this is hugely different than how iCloud Drive or Time Machine currently function. That doesn't mean anything. It's certainly doable. But Time Machine was spectacular. You could go back as far in time as you wanted to grab files and pull them out of basically what amounts to carbonite, right? They're just permanently there until time goes by and you have the little micro updates. Really amazing tech. If you've never seen it in action, you've never heard about it, then hopefully it'll come back. As for iCloud, that's basically your mobile devices just throw everything into iCloud. And it's drop dead simple to recover. If anything ever happens to any of your devices, you just pull it right back down. Brilliant, seamless, frictionless, never a problem with it. And they talk about speed and other things in here, but right around the corner, just like this article, is the Worldwide Developers Conference, which is going to be on June 6th. I am hoping that I'll be able to at least talk in real time about the event when it kicks off, the keynote, and we'll see what comes out of it. But I hope that new airport hardware. My only problem is that I completely changed. I switched to prosumer grade equipment, Ubiquity, as a matter of fact. And so I moved away from retail, standard consumer, just purchase it. It's not that big of a deal kind of stuff, which affords so much more in terms of number of devices that can attach to it. And for me, stability. I haven't had any, knock on wood now. I'm sure the universe will conspire to bring down my network, but love the tech. Not too happy right now with delivery of certain products because they're not around, but like all things, every 6 months something new is now old. So let's hope that Apple is releasing some really rock solid hardware again, and maybe I'll switch back to airport. As long as I can have many devices attached, everything is fine. But old school Wi-Fi 5 was horrible for me. So we'll see what happens. iCloud Time Machine for Mac and new airport routers pop out of a rumor mill, but hurdles abound. I don't know if there's really hurdles that need to be addressed. Let's continue on to the next article. LG launches its biggest, fastest OLED monitor yet. LG is already on OLED TV king, or is an OLED or OLED TV king. But when it comes to PC monitors, the company's OLED offerings are scant. That's changing this summer with the LG Ultra Gear 48 GQ900 announced this week. Just like LG's other OLED monitors, pardon me. Just like LG's other OLED monitors, you can expect this to be a lavish display for those with extreme needs and large budgets. I'm going to click the link because it looks like it's going to be a 240 hertz monitor, which isn't the fastest out right now. There's supposed to be a 500 hertz one. I don't recall the price of that one, but I think it was somewhere around 1800. I'm not sure. Anyway, this article is over at arstechnica.com by Sharon Harding. LG expands from expensive desktop OLED to expensive, massive gaming OLED. So it looks like it's going to be a 48, they're rounding up, 47.5 inch OLED screen. Will have 4K resolution, 120 hertz, overclocked to 138. All the rest is pretty standard. Some people consider 120 hertz beneficial for watching content made at 24 frames per second, like movies, to avoid jutter. You might get with some 60 hertz displays. I suppose. I think it involves more than just refresh, but okay. For extreme competitive PC gaming, however, it's worth noting that you can now reserve an OLED monitor with a 240 hertz refresh rate. Yeah, that's not a problem. But there is one that has a 500 that's out there. I'm not sure about why they're not actually talking about that. I think it's because it's brand new, like cutting edge. But even after the 48 GQ900 comes out, those interested in the rich contrast of OLED in PC monitor form will continue to have limited options. The majority of large screens built for gamers are overkill for most people, upwards of $4,000 according to this article. If you're interested in learning more about this and the specifics, they link to other things. Please follow the link and go over to Ars Technica, or just go straight to Ars Technica. Yeah, I'm fine with that too, of course. Okay, so the next article is over in the Warcrafters channel. Pulling apart hard space shipbreakers ships looks even more satisfying in Lego. So enter Lego artist Alexei Berteg's blocky recreation of an early game Mackerel. While created as a bit of promo for Focus Entertainment and Blackbird Interactive Salvage Sim, there's something absolutely joyous about seeing hard space's blocky shuttles in tabletop scale. So I love the idea of this. I would love to actually see hard space shipbreaker in Lego form as a game. I think that would make this go viral and kind of change the sleeper hit that seems to be Hard Space. There are certain games that really catch fire. Let me see here. Like V Rising, for one. Who else? Noida. I think Kepler is doing really well. Yeah, I don't know. There's several, but at any rate, this, if it was possible to reskin the models as Lego and have everything Lego form, I think that it would be brilliant and definitely would make it go viral. So it's a lot of fun. I love the game. I just don't play it that often. So this is an article over at PC Gamer by Natalie Clayton, and it says the smallest salvage operation in the system. So it's it looks like a lot of fun. Pulling apart Hardspace Shipbreakers' meticulously designed relics is one of the most satisfying things you can do in games right now. Yeah, a lot of people like House Flipper, Castle Flipper, the power washing sims, farming sims, etc. All of that is, people become really passionate about it and play it because of its supposed simplicity, and it kind of is ASMR-ish. You just kind of do the stuff. Nobody likes doing it in the real world unless you're getting paid some serious coin. But as a game, people just eat that stuff up. So it's a lot of fun. And then take it into space for Hard Space Shipbreaker, and you got to win there. So go read that article. Come on back and talk to me about the game if you are oh so interested. This one here is over in the Marvel channel. Artificial intelligence can now accurately describe your poop. Yep, I said it. We don't have jetpacks, flying cars, or teleportation pods, as futurists of the 60s imagined we would, but artificial intelligence assisted... Oh, I'm going to change that. So it says another word, but poop scanning apps are amongst the many pleasures of the 21st century. One app, Dieta Mobile, or Dieta, I don't know, it might be Dieta Mobile, uses AI to describe poop more accurately than patients themselves, according to a new randomized clinical trial presented at the Digestive Disease Week conference in San Diego over the weekend. Man, I don't know if I would be able to describe that conference as anything other than a crappy time. Anyway, I'm going to click the link. It'll take us over to vice.com. Vice is the one that has like the internal fortitude to actually do this article. So congratulations to Ella Fassler for doing this article. You have strength beyond many. So I won't go into it beyond just, I think that it's really funny that it's a news article. But it has some great benefit to people who need this, either as a diagnostic tool or just curiosity. But raising awareness of certain things is always necessary. We're all kind of fighting for slices of time, information overload, and we need people that are very passionate about this stuff. And I wish that I could just make everything funny and hang out and giggle about this kind of stuff, but it has real world implications. So Pimentel, who told Motherboard he had no financial stake in the app, said artificial intelligence takes the guesswork out of the diagnostic process, which generally relies on potentially inaccurate patient self-reporting. True. We are horrible witnesses, and I've been told in legal cases that the law generally gets it right, which has always been really dissatisfactory to me. I don't want generally gets it right. I want it gets it right. But we as humans are so fallible, and our observation skills suck. And when we're in crisis, we do nothing more than survival mode, which makes us focus on certain things and not be clinical, not observe, but just find the quickest path out of the danger zone. The danger zone. Man, why did I say that? Now it's in my head. Okay. Anyway, a version of the app is being promoted for clinician use. Currently, a GPS feature allows doctors to track the aggressiveness of a patient's movements. If a person has to get off the freeway and, go to the convenience store because they're in desperate need, the app will track that. Wow. Sorry, folks. I hope that I don't ever fall victim to this. I suppose anything is possible. So good on you for putting together an app. Okay, so the next article is over in the Smack Talk channel. iPhone 14 Pro, always on display. Studio Display Pro in the fall, and HomePod rumors on the Apple Insider podcast. There isn't much for me to talk about in this because it is a podcast and I haven't listened to it yet. But it says a new iPhone 14 Pro rumor are pointing to updated FaceTime camera and always on display. And I'm gonna bet you that the camera lens, the whole body for the camera is gonna move over a little bit. That's why you see cases now with really big windows to support not having to get a brand new case because something moved over in terms of the lenses. But at the same time, what's going to end up happening is buttons are going to move a little bit up and down, and those are like, watertight. The buttons that are on cases that allow you to push in the buttons on a phone they're locked in there. It's not a big opening. So when this iPhone 14 drops, watch the ecosystem because new cases are going to come because something has shifted out of alignment. It's happened every single iteration of an Apple product, and so now is the time, Apple, to not do that. But that will impact the ecosystem. There's an entire economic ecosystem here that shifts. Everybody starts buying new because a new device dropped. Not the new device. People will buy the new device, but now all of the accessories as well have to get repurchased. It is what it is. So, Studio Display Pro with Mini LED may launch this fall, and the future of HomePod, which I hope that they release a new full version of the HomePod, not just a HomePod Mini. I've got a bunch of the HomePod Minis in the place, but what we really want is the fidelity, the beautiful sound that came out of the HomePod, not the Mini. The Mini is just anemic in terms of big room sound in a big room. If you have a room that has 10-foot ceilings and it's a 30 by 30 room, the little Minis, even when linked together, barely fills a corner of the room. Anyway, I hope that they release something new. I did talk about yesterday the Wallet app now supports digital IDs in Maryland and Arizona, both of which I think you have to have the original with you, so it's really meaningless. But you can show it at TSA checkpoints, which I typically don't run across TSA checkpoints unless I'm traveling to an airport. Digital IDs were announced at last year's WWDC almost a year ago, and only a limited number of states in the U.S. have implemented the technology so far. So it says here soon, though, additional states will be supporting digital IDs, and it's some of these. I can't believe that some of them are, but you just don't expect it. It's a little innovative for some of these states, political systems, government systems, etc. Anyway, let's move on to the next article. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so this is the link that I was talking about from the iPhone 14 Pro always on display. So when you click the visit the source link, it'll take you over to the source where I aggregate it from. And it's over at appleinsider.com by Stephen Robles or Robles. Might be Roble. Anyway, and they talk about what I have been talking about. It just is reiterating what I was saying. Because I spoke about this stuff yesterday, day before, and previously about WWDC. This is just kind of bringing it up to the forefront again. Since its debut in November 2020, Apple hasn't updated the HomePod Mini with new features or hardware upgrades. However, that may soon change, according to analyst Ming-Chi Kuo, who is the single source that everybody references, who claims a new version of the HomePod is launching later this year or early 2023. So start the hype train. Let's go on to the very next article, and that's the Hubble looks at a face-on grand spiral. It's an image from NASA's Hubble Space Telescope. Features Grand Design Spiral, NGC 3631, located 53 million light years away in the direction of the constellation Ursa Major. So let's click the link, and there you go. This is an article over at phys.org. It's written by Claire Andrioli, NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. And I think that is amazing. I want a full-on picture. I don't know if that is the limit of it. You can follow the link and go over and click on the picture. But it says this image from NASA's Hubble Space Telescope features the Grand Design Spiral, NGC 3631, located some 53 million light years away. The arms of the Grand Design Spiral appear to wind around and into the galaxy's nucleus. It's just like ours. We're a spiral galaxy. I've always found this kind of stuff interesting. A long time ago, I asked the question why everything spins, and I got some approximation of a rationale as to why everything in nature starts spinning. To me, what came out of it was everything spins because it spins. Like something will hit the planet as it's forming, and it'll put it into motion. And then the heat and pressure at the core will continue to give it motion because it transfers this energy into basically the core, and everything keeps on spinning. And then things around it gravitationally get pulled, and you just end up with something spiraling. And that's what this really represents. But I've always wanted to know more about it. I just haven't looked into it. So it says, close inspection of NGC's 3631 grand spiral arms reveal dark dust lanes and bright star-forming regions along the inner part of the spiral arms. Star formation in spirals is similar to a traffic jam on the interstate. So when you're looking at this thing, that bright area is all stars giving off light. And as you move away into the edges of the spirals, they're not all clumped together. It's just fascinating that each one of these is a star for clusters of stars, which means that there are planets, and eventually we will find life on other planets. It's just a lot of blank space out there. And we're too busy fighting amongst ourselves to reach out to the stars. One day we'll learn our lesson, though. It'll probably take an alien invasion for us to... No, people will pick sides. Anyway, the next article is over in the Word in Tech. Report shows higher impact of higher crop and input prices. A report by the Agriculture and Food Policy Center, AFPC, at Texas A&M University titled Economic Impact of Higher Crop and Input Prices on AFPC's representative crop farms provides insight into the economic impacts of higher crop and major input prices on the center's 64 representative crop farms. Click the link, takes us over to phys.org and an article written by Paul Schattenberg from Texas A&M University. The report was compiled by Joe Outlaw, PhD, and Bart Fisher, PhD, co-directors of the AFPC in the Department of Agricultural Economics of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences at Texas A&M, Bryan College Station, to be specific. So about the report is a follow-up to an AFPC briefing paper that analyzed the impact of higher fertilizer prices on the AFPC's representative farms, done at the request of the U.S. Rep. Julia Letlow, explained Fisher, one of the principals. The current report analyzes the economic impacts of higher crop and major input prices on 64 representative crops. So, input suppliers around the world are having a tough time meeting demand for most of the major crop inputs. While there are many causes, the most cited revolve around the pandemic and the resulting supply chain and distribution problems that have persisted. He added to supply chain and distribution issues, inputs such as fertilizer have also been hit with import duties by the U.S. International Trade Commission on phosphorus and urea ammonium nitrate solutions. These factors, along with Russian invasion of Ukraine, with both countries being major fertilizer exporters, have further limited fertilizer availability and led to even higher prices. So why do we rely on all of these externals, right? Well, it's because we have strategic advantage in certain things. We have a competitive advantage in certain things. We, as a population, have been taught that instead of struggling with the things we have to work hard for, we can lean on others to provide it because they may be better situated to produce it at a lower cost, and that allows us to have a greater margin for our products domestically or being sold overseas. Whatever the case may be, we tend to allow others to make the stuff so that we can create our wealth based on them taking on the burden to produce something that has a smaller margin. And why would it have a smaller margin over there versus here? Well, because there is a tremendous amount of oversight, regulation, controls in place. And it makes things expensive because there's so many things involved in it. Whereas you can go overseas and they have a lower cost of living, a lower oversight. So regulation is lower, which means that it's cheaper to produce everything, let alone having the human capital available to go and do the work. You know, we have a lot of people that go, well, I don't want to do that, which is fine. Not everybody wants to go and noodle around with fertilizer. But at the same time, we're eschewing technology and we're not allowing foreign human resources to come in and work domestically, which would lower, except for the fact that we have a minimum wage. Well, you're embattled either way as a business owner, but you have to do what is the right thing to do. And so the most expedient, quote unquote, right thing is just to rely on somebody else to produce it. Otherwise, the cost would be even greater domestically, having to deal with all of the rules and regulations. Some still do, but it is what it is. So for the analysis, AFPC sent each of the 489 representative farm panel members an email to solicit the amount spent per acre on inputs for the 2021 crop year and the amount they expected to pay this year. The percentage change for each category was calculated for each respondent. So the 64 crops by type included 25 grain and oilseed farms, 11 wheat farms, 13 cotton farms, 15 rice farms. So net cash farm income in the representative feed grain and oilseed farms is projected to decline by an average of $534,000 from 2021 to 2022. And this is because of external influencers, not just the pandemic, but the people that are providing this stuff to these farms are going to be making record profits. If you pull the numbers of these publicly traded companies, you won't be able to get the numbers from privately owned companies, which is happening more and more. More companies are going private because you can't audit that stuff. You can't. You don't have stakeholders except the internal ones, and they assume all of the risk associated with it. Things are too concentrated for me. I think that there isn't enough competition, there isn't enough evolution, there isn't enough. There just isn't enough. And I still think that vertical farming is going to eventually take over. It just takes a lot of people to do it in various locations, many, many, many locations compared to the concentration of farming that takes place currently. And you can spin up a domestic aquaponic farm, hydroponic farm, anywhere. You can do it anywhere. In the middle of big cities, you can just spin up a hydroponic farm. Representative cotton farms face an average reduction in net cash farm income of $716,000. So you can see, and there's more on this article, there's more that just shows that there is massive decline. And at the same time, we're being told a massive decline in the profitability of the farms. And at the same time, we're being told that the era of cheap food is over. And I have been talking about that since I started the ohmTown Daily News show at the beginning of this year. But we were all told by some random guy and not necessarily random, I just don't know the name off the top of my head, who flat out said the era of cheap food is over. And this is one of the things. It's basically self-fulfilling prophecy based on greed. There's no reason for this. We could have mitigated this because we had 2 years of warning that this was going to take place. So let's continue on. I only have a couple more articles and then I'll be done. This next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel, which is all about business. Amazon has opened its first brick and mortar clothing store, which uses QR. Blah, 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 blah. Come on, let me start that all over again. Amazon has opened its first brick and mortar clothing store, which uses QR codes to make trying on clothes easier. This was something that I have actually wanted to have in place, where a QR code matches with the product so that you can basically have a virtual closet where you can just mash a button and it scans the metadata in the QR code so that you can have an outfit for every single day that you have clothes for. And all you have to do is say if it's clean or if it's dirty, and it will include it or exclude it. Now, I joke about that sort of because there's a streamer here and a company called Riff Tracks that basically makes jokes about movies. And in one movie called The Talking Cat, a teenage girl comes up with the idea of a software where you can scan the tags of clothing into a database and you'll know what is in your closet so that you can make outfits, put all the outfits for the day together. I always laughed because I had that idea a long time ago. I'm not a software engineer, but I think it's a brilliant idea, and I still haven't seen anything that actually has been deployed, mainly because every manufacturer of clothing would have to have a little QR code. Some places you can require it, I suppose. Amazon could probably demand that everybody have a QR code, but a lot of clothing now doesn't even have a tag. So as time goes on, tagless shirts and the data that would be in the QR code would be obliterated with each wash. It just kind of fails over time. So we'd need tags again. At any rate, Amazon is opening up a brick and mortar store. So let's see. This is an article over at businessinsider.com by Aruba Jamal. And it's, I wonder how expensive that clothing is, because it has a really low dollar per square foot presentation. And that usually it equates to high prices. Let's see here. In the rooms, customers can tap on touchscreen to search and rate items. They can also use the screen to ask for additional sizes and styles, with Amazon style workers delivering the items to the fitting room. Wow. There's going to be human beings? This is going to be really expensive. The store offers brands ranging from Levi's to Tommy Hilfiger to Champion, The Verge reported. The company said that prices for items will vary from more affordable items to higher end ones. No. I can't imagine that. Anyway, looks like there's a lot of fitting rooms. So cool. I will never use one, but okay. But a lot of people want to try on their clothes and not just order it and wait for it to show up. It doesn't fit properly, and then they have to send it back and get a larger size or smaller size, larger size. Anyway, gonna move on. Got 2 more articles. Accused of cheating by an algorithm and a professor she had never met. Pardon the cough. I knew it was coming and I didn't hit my mute. An unsettling glimpse at the digitization of education. It has nothing to do with the digitization of education. What it has to do with the fact that some students will cheat and other students won't cheat, and because the institution wants to reinforce the idea of the integrity of their education that is offered, and every student is a representative of that institution when they go out into the real world. And if a person cheats, they don't deserve to have the degree that somebody who worked their butt off to get a degree deserves. That person deserves it. The cheater does not. Yet sometimes a cheater doesn't get caught until they're in the workforce. And once they're in the workforce and they get caught cheating, what is going on here? Anyway, once they get caught, then they go, oh, well, they're from this school, and it becomes an issue. That said, sorry, I'm trying to adjust my mic. That said, we use certain tools to stop people from cheating. I'm not a big fan of automation. I'm not a big fan of surveillance. This article is written by Kashmir Hill over at New York Times, and it says a Florida teenager taking a biology class at a community college got an upsetting note this year. A startup called HonorLock. Yeah, that's getting used in a lot of academic circles. So the startup called HonorLock had flagged her as acting suspiciously during an exam in February. She said in an email, wrongfully accused of academic dishonesty by an algorithm. What happened, however, was more complicated than a simple algorithmic mistake. It involves several humans, academic bureaucracy, and an automated facial detection tool from Amazon called Recognition. Despite extensive data collection, including the recording of the girl who's 17 and her screen while she took the test, the accusation of cheating was ultimately a human judgment call. Did looking away from the screen mean she was cheating? This is the kind of stuff that's actually being used in China right now, where if you're not paying enough attention, you're actually docked. This has been shown in various places online. If you do a search for facial monitoring in academia, this takes place en masse. HonorLock is a different animal, where it's basically one-on-one, which basically means en masse at the micro level, because a whole bunch of people taking a test at the same time is online using HonorLock is the same as one room with 30 people, and everybody's being monitored the same way. Anyway, HonorLock, based in Boca Raton, Florida, was founded by a couple of business school graduates who were frustrated by classmates they believed were gaming tests. The startup administered 9 million exams in 2021, charging about $5 per test or $10 per student to cover all of the tests in the course. That's interesting. HonorLock has raised $40 million from investors, the vast majority of it since the pandemic began. And basically, what it amounts to in academia is you don't trust your students. And um, for the most part, you're going to have people on both sides of this fence. Well, if you don't trust during the tests, then what about all of the work that went into it as well? Well, the tests are supposed to verify that their work is up to snuff. But unfortunately, there's a whole lot of people out there that just don't test very well. And depending on who you are, you could be one of those people up to and including PhD, because testing is wholly different than having the ability to defend your presentation of material. So at every level of this, there is testing, and you can suck at testing, but nail everything else, and you end up being a C student. And that's just because you're horrible at taking tests. But at what point and in which domains really do you have to have the ability to do total recall and pass a test when you have the world's knowledge at your fingertips? I can always search for information, and as long as I trust the solution, the source of my information, it answers the question, it solves the problem. And there isn't a single location where the people that are working somewhere do not have the ability to reference material somewhere at some point. So I've never been a fan of high stakes solutions, particularly things like HonorLock. The teenager was in their final year of a special program to earn her high school diploma and her associate's degree. Typically, it's called things like, well, it's not even AP, it's not advanced placement stuff, but it depends on the institution that they're going to. The class from Broward College was fully remote and asynchronous. Asynchronous online education was growing even before the pandemic. It offers students a more flexible schedule. And this actually kind of impinges the ability to do online classes because it is seen as needed to stop cheating, except that there is no way that you're going to totally stop cheating. I've been in a testing center where I've caught somebody cheating and they were under surveillance and nobody knew. So, without a doubt, you're not going to wholly stop cheating, and even modicum amounts of prevention don't necessarily tell the full story, and context really matters when it comes to things like this. So, the Florida teacher's biology, the Florida teenager's biology professor, Janelle Orridge, was alive but distant. Her interactions with students taking place by email as she assigned readings and YouTube videos. The exam this past February was the second the teenager had taken in the class. She set up her laptop in her living room in North Lauderdale, making sure to allow a long list of rules set out in the class syllabus and in the HonorLock drop-down menu. Do not eat or drink or use a phone, have others in the room, look off screen to read notes, and so on. So you couldn't even look off screen to read notes. Well, I think it's rather absurd. But that's just me. And it's largely frowned upon to have high stakes testing anyway. HonorLock, in this case, probably doesn't. There's context here that's probably missing. But they said, this must be a mistake. I was not being academically dishonest. Looking down does not indicate academic dishonesty. And apparently the phrase, the word of God, is used in here. So I'm trying to find that context. Schools seem to be treating it as the word of God, Mr. Quinton said. If the computer says you're cheating, you must be cheating. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And if it requires a human being to audit the cheating designation, If the person lacks the desire to pursue context, then they can tag it as cheating, and then suddenly it has a thing, and you end up having to do a dispute, a grade dispute, or a non-academic dispute. So if you're curious about this kind of stuff, go over and watch it, or read it, over at New York Times. See, I looked away, so I must be cheating. And finally, the last article is in the Mobile Channel, and this is about the baby formula shortage. It says, what really caused the baby formula shortage? A recent shutdown of one of the largest production plants in the United States has sent families scrambling to find essential food for their children. This, I think, needs to be a fundamental aspect of the United States in mandating that there, or I should say facilitating that there is more competition in producers for things like baby formula. This one plant shutting down took out 25% of the supply. Imagine if there was something a little more heinous that's in the system. According to this article, this article is over in the Daily, so you'll have to download the podcast. It's from New York Times. It's called The Daily. The host is Michael Barbero. It's produced by Stella Tan, it's Sipko, Ricky Novetsky, and Eric Krupke. Then there's editors and other music and stuff like that. You'll, if you want to find out about this kind of stuff, go over to the article. But what it amounts to in their little summary is a dire lack of baby formula in the United States in the past few weeks has been blamed on production deficiencies, such as a small number of manufacturers and inflexible supply chain. That is the result. So what led to it? Okay. So, and it's the same question that I had, which was it shut down 25% of the supply because it had to shut down. But nowhere in there was it disclosed as to, at least from what I read, from what I heard, there was no rationale as to what shut it down. But this investigative reporter from the Times named Christina Jewett said that they traced it back further to a deadly bacteria whose detection set off a chain of events that ultimately led to the shortage. And Christina Jewett is an investigative reporter who covers the Food and Drug Administration for the New York Times. So you can go over and click the link and go over to the Daily, or you can just go over to wherever you download podcasts and listen to today's Daily. You can also go to the link that's provided in the show notes and on the NewYorkTimes.com website. The podcast is there. But at any rate, that's the end of today's show. Again, today's show was for the 27th. The 27th of May, 2022. I normally try to mention it somewhere in the podcast about the day. I need to do it for the beginning. I might even start doing a little soundbite before the show actually starts. But with that in mind, like all the shows, I go back to the very beginning and I click on the ohmTown logo. Still working on a new logo. Got somebody working on it. I don't know what's going to come of it, but figured I'd throw that out there. If you're interested in that kind of thing and you want to make a logo for ohmTown, get in touch with me. If you're looking to be a host on any of the shows, I am still, I'm always looking for somebody that might want to co-host or host. But at any rate, thank you very much for hanging out. If you are here in my chat, if you're not, and I see you tomorrow, I'll be here. I'm hoping at 1 o'clock, but I'm going to get pulled away. I'm already being pulled away today. So I will see you tomorrow, hopefully at 1 p.m. Eastern. Thanks. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.